Hold a posture for 5 seconds. Just 5. That is all you need for your body to trigger a transformation that Western scientists took decades to figure out. But here is the part they never told you. That transformation does not happen in your muscles. It happens in a system so invisible, so misunderstood, that mainstream medicine essentially ignored it for over a century. And the moment you understand what is happening inside that system right now, as you sit here, stiff, tired, maybe in pain, you will never think about your body the same way again. We have been lied to. We were told that to be strong, you need to move frantically, drip with sweat, and tear your muscles apart. We were sold the idea that the gym is the only temple for the body. Lift heavy things, make painful faces in the mirror, and wait for the muscle to grow out of sheer exhaustion. But the Yi Jin Jing does the exact opposite. And when you see what happens to your tendons when you learn how not to move, I promise you will never train the same way again. Today, we are decoding the muscle and tendon change classic under a microscope. Let us put the mysticism aside for a moment and look at what is actually happening inside your biology. Because what the Shaolin monks discovered 500 years ago was not magic. It was a brilliant biological shortcut. And it starts with understanding something your doctor almost certainly never mentioned. Let us start with the truth about how your body actually moves fluid. Most people picture the heart as the only pump in the body, one engine pushing blood through miles of vessels. But that picture is incomplete. Your muscles are secondary pumps. Every time a muscle contracts and then releases, it squeezes the surrounding tissue and then lets it expand, pulling fresh fluid in like a living bellows. This is why movement feels good. This is why sitting all day destroys you from the inside. But here is where conventional exercise fails you completely. Picture your muscles like an old, dry kitchen sponge. When you do normal exercise, weights, running, CrossFit, it is like squeezing and releasing that sponge rapidly under a faucet. Sure, it gets wet. It gets a superficial clean. But when you practice Yi Jin Jing and hold that pose in isometric tension, you are wringing that sponge out with all your might and keeping it there, fully compressed, for several seconds. In that moment of static tension, you are doing something radical. You are literally squeezing the old, toxic, stagnant blood out of the deepest tissues, those dark corners that normal pumping does not even reach. And here comes the part that will change how you train forever. The exact instant you relax the posture, a physical vacuum effect occurs. Fresh, yet oxygen-rich blood rushes in at turbo speed to scrub every corner of your cells. You are not just moving fluids, you are giving your internal engine a complete oil change. The old metabolic waste that was sitting in your joints, in your tendons, in the spaces between your vertebrae, it gets flushed out. And what rushes in to replace it is clean, nutrient-dense, life-giving fluid. That is the sponge effect. That is why 5 seconds of stillness beats 5 minutes of frantic movement every single time. But the story does not end there, not even close. Until 2007, medical science almost completely ignored a vital part of your anatomy. It was not the heart. It was not the brain. It was not even the muscles. It was the fascia. That thin, shiny, white film you see on a raw chicken breast before you cook it. You have it too. It is like an internal wetsuit that wraps around all your muscles, not your organs, your bones, connecting everything into a single, uninterrupted, three-dimensional web. Every structure in your body is suspended inside this web. Every nerve, every blood vessel, every cell in your body has fascia wrapped around it. For most of the 20th century, surgeons cut through fascia to get to the interesting stuff and threw it away. They did not think it mattered. They were catastrophically wrong. In 2007, the first International Fascia Research Congress brought together biologists, anatomists, and physicists who finally started piecing together what the Shaolin monks had known for 5 centuries. Fascia is not just packaging material. It is a living, responsive, electrical communication network. When it is healthy, it is slippery, elastic, and filled with fluid. When it is damaged, dried out, or compressed by years of poor posture and repetitive movement patterns, it becomes sticky, brittle, and rigid. And that rigidity spreads everywhere. It tightens around your nerves, compressing them. It wraps around your organs, restricting their function. It pulls your spine out of alignment from the inside. Conventional weightlifting often ignores this web entirely, or worse, hardens it, dries it out, and makes it brittle. Every time you load a joint under heavy weight without addressing the fascial system underneath, you are building strength on top of a compromised foundation. And there is something even more insidious happening. The average person in the modern world sits for over 10 hours a day. Those 10 hours are not neutral. Every minute you spend collapsed into a chair, your fascia is adapting to that shape. It is literally crystallizing around your poor posture, locking your hips forward, pulling your head down, compressing your thoracic spine until the shape of a stressed, defeated animal becomes your permanent default structure. You do not just feel old, unless you are being sculpted into the shape of someone who has given up. The Yi Jin Jing reverses that sculpting process. It demands that you inhabit your full architecture again. The Yi Jin Jing, with its spiral stretches and held postures, acts like a deep moisturizer for that fascia. It stretches it. It unglues the adhesions that have formed between layers. It rehydrates it. It makes it elastic. And it restores the electrical conductivity of the entire web. Now that is why a slender monk can possess explosive power that puts a muscular bodybuilder to shame. It is not that he has bigger muscles. It is that he has an internal electrical grid that transmits force without any energy leaks. The bodybuilder is powerful but inefficient, like a machine with half its gears stripped. The monk turns his body into a tense bow, ready to fire. And the rest of us are walking around with a slack rope, wondering why we feel so broken. Now that you understand your body is an electrical network and not just meat stuck to bone, let us talk about what actually happens when you turn this practice into a daily habit. Because feeling relief after one session is one thing. Redesigning your anatomy is another matter entirely. Think about your tendons. Most people have tendons like old rubber bands left out in the sun too long, stiff, dry, and ready to snap at the first sudden pull. A ligament tear, a tendon rupture, a herniated disc. These are not random accidents. They are the predictable endpoint of years of ignored dehydration and fascial restriction. When you start Yi Jin Jing, during the first 3 months, you are putting those cords through an intensive rejuvenation treatment. By applying that constant controlled tension and then releasing it, you force the collagen fibers to reorganize. They stop being a messy, tangled plate of spaghetti and align into perfect, resilient rows. Scientists call this process collagen remodeling. The Shaolin masters simply called it turning rope into cable. You go from having loose, frayed strings to having flexible steel cables. That is why advanced practitioners move with that fluid, spring-like quality that makes them look 20 years younger than they are. They are not performing for the camera. They are simply walking inside a body that has been systematically rebuilt from the connective tissue up. And there is more. If we go deeper, we reach something that sounds like science fiction, but is pure biophysics. Your bones. You probably think of bone as dead stone that simply holds you up. That is the popular image. Calcium, hard, inert, passive, but bone is living tissue. It contains blood vessels, nerve endings, stem cells, and an absolutely mind-blowing property called piezoelectricity. It is a word that sounds complicated, but the concept is beautifully simple. When you apply mechanical pressure to a bone, it generates a small electrical charge. This is not metaphorical. This is measurable, reproducible, laboratory-confirmed physics. The crystal structure of collagen and hydroxyapatite inside your bones acts like a tiny generator. Compress it, and it produces current. By holding Yi Jin Jing postures, you are gently compressing your skeleton, not crushing it, not grinding it, but applying that precise, sustained pressure that your body was designed to receive. That pressure generates a microscopic electric spark, and that spark screams a message to your biology. We need reinforcements here, and your organism responds. Osteoblasts, the cells responsible for building bone, receive that electrical signal and begin depositing calcium and minerals directly into the compressed zones. You are not just stretching, you are recharging your bones like a living battery. This is the exact opposite of what happens to the bones of someone who is sedentary, or someone who only trains in straight lines with heavy loads that bypass the piezoelectric effect entirely. If you have the patience to persist beyond those first 3 months, you reach what the ancients called marrow washing. In modern terms, this is a process of optimizing the environment inside your bones themselves. Your bone marrow is the factory that produces your blood cells and a significant portion of your immune response. When the marrow is compressed, stagnant, and oxygen deprived, its output suffers. You feel it as chronic fatigue, as poor recovery, as a body that seems to collect illness and injury without ever fully healing. The sustained practice of Yi Jin Jing, through the piezoelectric effect and the sponge effect working together, creates a tide of fresh fluid moving in and out of the marrow cavity with every practice session. You are literally cleaning the factory. You are optimizing the very source of your blood and your immune intelligence. It is a process of reverse engineering. While the rest of the world rusts and shrinks with age, this practice polishes you from the inside. At this point, the inevitable question is, if this system is so perfect, so complete, so biologically sound, why does not everyone practice it? The answer is uncomfortable, because it requires something harder to train than biceps. It requires patience. We live in the era of instant gratification. We are addicted to the magic pill and results by yesterday. We want the transformation in 30 days or less, or we want our money back. We want the before and after photo. We want the dramatic moment. But Yi Jin Jing does not care about your rush. It is a method that respects the deep time of biology, the deep time of collagen remodeling, of fascial rehydration, of bone mineral deposition. These processes do not happen on your schedule. They happen on the schedule your cells have been running on for hundreds of millions of years. And no amount of motivation or modern anxiety changes that timeline. This is also why this method is not designed for aesthetic results. Although you will look better, the posture alone will transform how you present yourself in the world. The reduction in inflammation will clear your skin and your eyes. The improved circulation will add a vitality to your face that no cosmetic product can replicate. But the true purpose goes deeper than appearance. It is freedom. The freedom to bend down and tie your shoes at 90 years old without groaning. The freedom to pick up your grandchildren without fear of your back giving out. The freedom to inhabit a body that does not feel like a rusty cage, but like a light, powerful, responsive vehicle that you actually enjoy living in. The monks understood something that Western medicine is only beginning to acknowledge. It is impossible to elevate the mind if the body is in constant pain. If the vehicle is broken, the journey ends early. You cannot think clearly through chronic inflammation. You cannot be generous when you are exhausted. You cannot be present when every movement reminds you of your body's decay. So the Yi Jin Jing is not really a fitness system. It is a life extension technology disguised as exercise. And here is what I need you to understand before we go any further. The 5-second hold that started this conversation is not the whole story. It is the door. Behind that door is a complete system. 12 movements, each one designed to address a specific fascial line, a specific organ system, a specific pattern of stagnation that modern life creates in the human body. We have already covered the first movement in detail, the foundation, the isometric press, the sponge effect in your hands and chest. If you practiced it even once after watching that video, you already know that this is real. Your body told you the truth. In the next sessions, we are going to build the complete sequence. We are going to go through each movement with precision, giving you the biomechanical explanation, the internal sensation to look for, and the specific tissue you are targeting. No mysticism, no vague promises, just the ancient manual decoded for the modern human. And if you are serious about this, if you genuinely want to experience what it feels like to inhabit a body that is hydrated, electrically alive, and structurally sound, then I am going to make this simple for you. 15 minutes a day. That is the entire investment. 15 minutes that can permanently change the conversation you have with your own body. Your body does not know how to lie. If you give it what it needs, it will respond with a sensation of lightness and vitality you may not have felt in decades. Try the first movement right now. Hold it for 5 seconds, just 5. And then let your own sensations tell you the truth. Remember your decree for today. I transform my body from within. Do not settle for less. You have just witnessed something that most people will scroll past, not because it is not true, but because the truth requires action. You now understand the sponge effect, the piezoelectric charge inside your bones, and what fascia actually is. That knowledge is yours forever. The question is whether you will use it. The monks did not talk about transformation. They practiced it in silence every single morning, without waiting for perfect conditions. That is the only difference between the person who reads this and the person who actually changes. If this video cracked something open in you, hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second and it tells this channel that real knowledge matters. She subscribed to Pure Zen Space so you do not miss a single movement in this series. We are decoding the ancient manual 1 video at a time, and every session goes deeper. The second scroll is waiting. The full 12 movement sequence is coming. Your body is ready. All it needs is you to show up, subscribe, stay in the silence. The path continues here.